Let's talk about 3D muzzle flares as seen in our latest time-free shootout, except we totally tricked you all because they're not 3D muzzle flares. They're actually just 2D images from the Action Essentials pack, and we're treating them as if they're in 3D space. It's just two flat images, the front flare and a side flare, and then the front flare is just 90 degrees perpendicular with the side flare. And let me show you how we do this. First, we enable the 3D checkbox for the flare and the smoke images, and blah blah blah. I hope you're entertained by watching a dude click around on a computer. We place the front flare at the base of the side flare and turn it 90 degrees and parent one to the other, so when it rotates around, it looks kind of like a 3D image. Since we're only doing a little bit of rotation for each one, it doesn't really matter that it doesn't look perfectly 3D because it doesn't turn around so much that you can tell that they're flat images. And the same thing goes for the smoke images. Right now, this one's parallel with the side flare, so what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to rotate it around just a little bit, something like 30 degrees or so, and do the same for the duplicated one. And so with these 2D images together, this is what it looks like. As you can tell, if it's going straight on, you can totally tell that they're flat, but if you're at an angle, not a big deal. This is the original shot with Mike, and if you look, he's moving a little bit at the beginning, so how do you fix that? You just don't use the part of the shot where he's moving. And also, having the 3D muzzle flare, or the fake 3D muzzle flare in there, I should say, adds a lot to the illusion of everything being totally still, because that element's placed into the world as if it was, in fact, floating in the air. The flare there is not exactly 90 degrees to the camera like it would be in the shot, but if you look at the view from the final shot, it looks about right. And if it looks right, it is right. Now for shots where there's like still elements in there, we do this, which is have everybody stand there. It doesn't matter that they're moving a little bit because we're going to take a freeze frame from that, cut out the people, and add them into this shot, the original base shot. So here's me walking up, and now we've added them and the flares, and also smoke and glow, and I move Matt. If you look closely, Matt is moving throughout that whole shot, but because there's so much stuff in front of the lens with, like, you know, frozen flares and smoke and actually frozen people, that's sort of most of the frame, you don't really notice it. Now for the stuff where I'm moving around, the camera's moving, things get a little more complicated because this is a little bit beyond the scope of the tutorials and what we're covering. But we're using a 3D camera tracker, which basically puts a whole bunch of points there and figures out how the camera moves through 3D space. This makes it a little bit easier to shoot because everyone just needs to hold as still as they can, and because the camera's moving, it's very difficult to tell if anybody's moving as well. This stuff is way more advanced, so if you want to look into it, there's a free 3D tracker program called Voodoo that you can download and play around with.